on 2ZU. It's the Richard Perno Show.
Getting around the issue of the call for tenders for the new Dubbo Bridge, the River Street Bridge, proposed to cost about $220 million, although our road expert from Nat Roads, the man who's been pushing for a ring road for many years now, Johnny Moss earlier, said it depends on how deep they can get into the bedrock of this thing. If the pylons go, they don't even know what's on the bottom of the river. So that's going to happen. It could even be $300 million or more. Dubbo Regional Council Mayor Matthew Dickerson, are you giving this a tick off? Will it do what they reckon it'll do, Matthew, this River Street Bridge?
Well, one of the important things, Richard, is to make sure that you know what you can control and accept the things you can't control. And Council before had been fighting hard against the River Street Bridge, but it's at the point now that it's progressing. So Council formally resolved that, and we did have a meeting with Transport for New South Wales before we came to this resolution of Council, but we formally resolved that the River Street Bridge is happening. It's a state government project. We can jump up and down about it. We can say that's great, that's terrible, but it's irrelevant what Council says because we are not in control of this project. So the sensible thing we've done now is we've said we accept it's going to happen, but what we want to do is work with the state government on things that are important, such as the ring road, the bypass road, whatever you might want to call it. We've actually said a formal resolution, let's go and ask the state government for some money for a business case for that. So rather than just talk about it, because the previous council had actually never asked the state government for any money, for any formal process to actually go and talk about a ring road or have some sort of process to talk about a ring road. They talked about it to the media, but they'd never actually talked about it to the state government, which I've found quite interesting. So we've now formally resolved to say the River Street Bridge is going to happen. Let the state government do what the state government will do. It's a highway. That's their area of control. And then please, can we have some money to actually put together that business case and see what it would be, what the ring road would look like, what the benefits would be, and then start to build that case. And what normally happens with a ring road or a bypass road is it happens in sections. It's unusual or unlikely that any state government is going to come along and say, here's a whole big chunk of money to build a complete ring road. But they will say over maybe one or two elections, here is some money to build a part of that ring road, which will make some improvements to traffic flow, and away we go from there.
The difficulty with that, Matthew Dickerson, is if they're going to sink $200 or $300 million into this River Street Bridge, the cupboard will be bare when you want your money for your ring road.
Yeah, and I've heard that logic, and there is some argument around that there may be somewhere, you've had enough money, Dubbo, we'll go and spend that money somewhere else. And that's the idea of asking for a much smaller amount of money for a business case, because if the business case stacks up and it makes sense, then from a Transport for New South Wales perspective, they still should be looking at projects that stack up and make sense and gives some sort of return on the investment to the community. So yes, there might be some of that, but again, it doesn't matter what we do. We can jump up and down, or we can say, Kumbaya, let's all sing with the Lords. But it doesn't matter. Transport for New South Wales is a state government authority. Council does not control them. So there's no point. I mean, people say to me, can you change income tax? No, I can't change income tax because it's federal government.
That it's a cohort between the state and the federal government about this bridge itself. But as I say, Matthew, there may not be anything left. And it doesn't underpin, and I hate to bring this up, where does politics play in this? Dougal's on 2%, isn't he? Now, won't it depend on how much he needs to survive the next election or the one after as how much favour the Dubbo Regional Council receives from state coffers?
I'm confused, Richard. Are you saying that any government would actually put more money towards an area that was tight in the polls? Surely that couldn't be right.
No, I'm not meaning that at all.
Surely,
I'll just remove my tongue.
Surely every decision made by government will be based on an as-needs basis. And
absolutely. It'll be based on morality and circumstance and the greater good. I'm sure that happens.
That's right. Good. I'm glad we're singing from the same songbook there. But look, I think the thing is that and you may well be right, in a tight seat, now may well be the time to get that business case money and say you really need to start looking at this in terms of a ring road or some other process there to try and deviate the traffic around. And again, that's something that we're not going to build. Council simply does not have the funds to build something of that level. And the state government, and in this case the state and the federal government, are the ones responsible for highways. They're the ones that maintain highways. Even Cobra Street that goes straight through the middle of Dubbo, that's maintained by the state government. We might do work on it sometimes, but we're paid by the state government to do that work.
So what you're saying, Matthew Dickinson, is that this is all a fait accompli. We're just going to sit back and see what happens with this River Street Bridge. The tenders will be called for on the 28th. Work may start at the end of this year, may start at the beginning of next year. We're not to know. We don't know anything. So leave that alone. Concentrate on the ring road. Now, the state government did give the Dubbo Council $100,000 to investigate the proposal of a south bridge. Where is that?
Yeah, I actually don't know where that's up to. That's one thing that people have been asking about, and I've got to find out where that process is up to at the moment, because there was some discussion last year about some different options for the South Dubbo Bridge, and then it all seemed to go very quiet. So we've got lots of things we've got to rejuvenate from the previous council, and that is one of the many things, Richard, because I know people are interested in it, and we've got to work out where it's at.
Yep, where the money is too.
Well, I assume they've spent the money on some of those options, because if you remember, there were some options that were being discussed and some weren't being released to the public and some were. And so presumably they've spent that money already on looking at those options and investigating that. But then it all got a bit too hard, I think, for the last council and got shelved. Now, sometimes you've got to make tough decisions. So if we've got to make tough decisions, we've got to make tough decisions. But we want to bring the community along for the ride.
Okay, and before I let you go, we'll talk more on this because it's not going to go away. It's resurfaced after half a dozen years or so with the proposal by the RMS. The tenders will be called for. Matthew Dickinson, many calls, a lot of emails. We've got to save this Westview Drive-In. Is there anything the Dubbo City Council can do?
Well, it's interesting. I actually, when I heard first of all about the Westview Drive-In, it was very early when I'd just been elected as mayor. So I made contact with the owner of the Westview Drive-In Proprietary Limited, the business, and I made contact with the developer of the land, and I essentially got those two. I said to the developer, would you move the screen? That's the main part for that business, the cost of that business, move that screen somewhere else. Would you cover the cost of that? And the developer very generously said, yes, within reason, yes, I'll go and do that. Spoke to the owner and said, look, the developer's happy to move that. Look for a parcel of land. We'll find a parcel of land for you that you can move it to and have a lease there. So we'll come up with something. But again, that's a business owner. We can't tell a business owner what to do, but I certainly put in steps to place that we could actually keep it in Dubbo with help from the developer, again, very generous of them, with help from council, find some land. And it may have actually been cheaper just to build a new screen, but again, I left that in the hands of the business owner and the developer, and those discussions occurred. In the end, the business owner made a decision to sell the business to somewhere else, and I can't make him not do that. Now, that sale doesn't seem to have gone ahead now, and I actually had a brief conversation with the business owner again yesterday just to see what the potential was. Again, I can't make someone do something. All I can do is make offers and have discussions, but he owns a business and he will make a decision about what is the best thing for that business for him. I would like to see it stay in Dubbo, but I can't make it stay in Dubbo.
No, you
if you know
can't
what I
make
mean.
it, but have you made an offer to say, we will give you a block of land?
I've certainly said, we'll find somewhere for you and we'll give you a lease over that land so that you've got some permanent tenancy. He always knew that the Westview Drive-In, the land that was out there, the owner was always trying to sell that land, and he knew that when one day it was sold, then that would be the end of his business because the owner wanted to sell that parcel of land. But I think there are other parcels of land that would be suitable in Dubbo, and I think that would be fantastic to have it there. And again, those were the offers I made. We need some parameters around what you need for that land, and I think having a long-term lease would give him some sort of level of comfort in saying...
So are you prepared to give him a long-term lease?
Well, again, he'd have to pay for something there, but again, it'd be something that wouldn't need to be a very large cost because they don't need it very often. So
okay, so let me ask you this finally, and we'll talk about this too. This has had such sentimental reverberation around the entire region, not just here, but those who came into town to have a look at this Westview Drive-In and see the shows on top of Burke Hill. So that you don't think it's dead in the water yet, your discussions with those who are involved?
Well, I was, maybe it is, but again, these discussions happened many months ago, and then I followed up, but I didn't hear any more, and I thought, well, that's okay, I'll let the developer and the business owner continue those discussions. Again, I know the offer was there. I put it in writing to him. So it's really up to the business owner to make a decision about what he wants to do.
The gate is still open.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Without a doubt.
We'll leave it there for now. Matthew Dickinson, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Richard.